Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
This is Serious Privacy by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart and Kay Royal.
On the final day of 2022, we bring you the final episode of Serious Privacy of this year. And as has become our tradition, it is our best of look-back episode with some highlights of past episodes. But before we start with that, some numbers. We made 45 Serious Privacy episodes this year, this one included, bringing our total to 136. We have had 25 guests, 4 conference reports, 5 episodes with Ralph O'Brien as co-host, and 1 crossover episode with the Data Diva and Privacy Please podcast. And all this content was good for almost 43,000 downloads since the start of 2022. Wow. I'm almost speechless about it. But because it's time to look back. And a fully silent episode wouldn't do our listeners any good. So we start looking back, and even though Kay does not really like it, also looking a little ahead at 2023. My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy. So, Paul, I'm going to throw out the unexpected question first. And then, yes, I want to do some reminiscing about 2022, and you're breaking the rule about having expectations for 23. Shh, leave it alone.
It's only your rule, not mine.
There you go. Okay, so what's the newest thing that you are wearing today?
Ooh, my sweater. But nothing is really new because it's the end of the year. I'm just cocooning at home doing the final work, and that is not a day to dress up. So, yeah, nothing special.
Didn't know if you had something new from Christmas or something, because you and I haven't spoken since then. By the way, I hope it was fantastic.
It was good. I've got some new clothes over Christmas, but I'm not wearing those right now, so that will have to wait until the new year.
You wear nothing new for me. So I'd have to say, I think I'm kind of with you. The newest thing I'm probably wearing is either the glasses or the earbuds, and I've had both of them for a while. Let's be honest. I've had to buy tons of reading glasses because I have them all over the house. They're in the kitchen, they're in the living room, they're in the bedroom, they're in the bathroom.
But they're never where you need them.
And I have different kinds for each place, so I know which ones are supposed to go where. And yeah, I've had to buy more. But I like these rimless ones. They make me look like I'm not necessarily wearing glasses. Oh my gosh. But yes, let's talk about 2022 a little bit. There was a lot that happened in 2022. I mean, of course, in the privacy world, tons of things come to mind. We had the CPR regs, and the Colorado just put out their revision of their regs. We had new laws proposed in tons of countries. Think of the biggest thing with India. We were there and we weren't there, and then we were there and then we weren't there.
Mm-hmm. And then we were there again.
And then we were there again. So we have that. We have the thingy and the executive order and the things that are moving. We have the adequacy decisions and the limited decisions on it's only good for certain time frame. Different things like this. We had lots of things. Here in the U.S., we had the Roe v. Wade decision, which had, tons of people up in arms on both sides of the issue, and almost literally up in arms.
And you had the will they, won't they ADPPA discussion.
Yes, the ad-pa-pa-pa-pa thing just kind of went bonkers crazy. So we
had rigorous enforcement in China. We have a new data protection law in Argentina that was put on the table after an intense consultation process.
Yes.
We have lots of developments happening in Africa that we also discussed at length with some of our guests. So
yes,
the world is living and breathing data protection.
Yes, absolutely. Even if most people don't recognize that they're living and breathing it. Did Canada's C-27 ever pass?
Not yet. Not yet. But that's still in the work. It has not been repealed. So there is still a chance for C-27 to become law. But there are many things that have not been passed yet. So that is one of the 2023 things that we can look ahead to. Yes, there will be more legislation, whether we like it or not, but there will be more legislation.
Well, I think it's interesting that, especially in the U.S., the state legislation slowed down drastically.
Yeah.
In the hopes, one, it was a midterm election season, but also in the hopes that the federal would pass something, and the federal did not pass anything. We might see a lot more activity on the federal level now that the House has changed parties. But you and I have both expressed that we expected to see a lot more out of our vice president, given her history, and we're not seeing a lot of movement, but maybe that will start happening now. Or we're going to see a lot more action out of the states this year who got tired of waiting on the federal to do something. So it's interesting that the U.S. is going through what Europe went through many, many years ago in having the multiple jurisdictions that you have to follow by, and they're not all the same. What's California going to do now that there are no exemptions for HR-related data or B2B data, which Europe has never had that exemption? So is it good for us? Is it bad for us? It's different from the other 4 states. I don't know what 2023 is going to bring.
So what is your privacy highlight for this year?
So actual privacy event as opposed to favorite podcast. I'm going to say it's the executive order. I think that really is the first step to getting a thingy in place. I don't know if the thingy is going to be good for us or not. But honestly, I don't know if it's going to be good for us or not, given all the work companies are putting in with their data protection agreements and everything. But I think the executive order was a good first step. And I still believe optimistically that it's a good first step.
For me, that's certainly up there. But I think for me, the highlight was the annulment, or at least the decision of the Belgian DPA that the IAB TCF was not compliant. And that you cannot rely upon legitimate interest for cookie data, that you cannot just have a cookie banner with all that complexity that people don't understand without a rejectal. I think that was a very important step also towards compliance. Unfortunately, it has been a bit quiet since because it was appealed and it's all before the courts now, and it needs to go to the ECJ for prejudicial questions that have to be decided upon by the judges. So this will also be continued in the course of 23. But for me, it was a really important moment because it saw a smaller regulator actually do very thorough and decent work that has an effect on all of Europe.
And that was early on this year. It was a little bit of a carryover from 21, but I agree with you. I appreciated that because we all knew that didn't abide by what we understood the law to be. So we were just thinking it was a matter of time, and I'm not sure that I expected Belgium to do it.
I had good hopes, and luckily those hopes were made through. And we actually discussed this in episode 3 of this year, so let's take a brief listen. You've been involved in the decision of the litigation chamber against IAB Europe on the transparency and control framework. What, in your view, is the most important part of this decision?
I think the most important part is really about the fact that the TCF, so the Transparency and Consent Framework, which has been developed by IAB Europe, dependent in this case, has been deemed not compliant with the GDPR in regard of many aspects, but the most important one being transparency towards the users, I think. Mm-hmm. And of course, the impact of this decision is huge due to the popularity of the framework. So the framework is being used by many websites in the EU. And so, of course, given the observation that the litigation chamber made regarding the compliance, it does have impact not only on IAB Europe, but also on other actors that are using or relying on the TCF for their websites or applications.
Yeah. So for those of our listeners who don't completely understand or are not familiar with the Belgian DPA's approach to investigations and enforcement decisions, you work in separate phases, right? First, the inspection, and then the litigation chamber takes over for the enforcement part or for the sanctions part.
Well, not only. So one of the elements on which the litigation chamber bases itself to take its decision is a report produced by the inspection service. However, it's not the only element which we base ourselves on. and we're completely independent from the inspection service. We also take into account external information. But that's certainly one of the pieces we rely upon.
Yes. So if y'all needed a reminder, there we go. I don't know how many of y'all were part of that framework and using that as the framework. It had many complications coming along after it.
Still being used, unfortunately.
Yeah, but a very good decision. And I kind of thought the appeal and everything would have worked its way through by now. So.
Well, the wheels of the court move slowly. That is also something that we know.
The wheels of the court go round and round, round.
No. It's not a bus. It's a court. When you talk about court cases going round and round, we can talk about data retention or PNR data, where the member states keep refusing to listen to what the court says, so that another court case has to be brought and the court can explain once again that massive and indiscriminate data collection in the European Union is not allowed because that is not in line with the fundamental right to privacy and data protection. That's when the wheels of the court go round and round. This is just round 1. Where we may be going for round 3 is actually on the thingy, on the Privacy Shield.
Do you remember when we first named it the thingy?
I do, because I was set under a tree somewhere in Kenya with the rapid falling evening when we started recording.
I was going to say the sun was going down behind you.
Exactly when we started recording, it was bright light, and 30 minutes into the recording, it was pitch dark outside. But yeah, that was an interesting location to record, but it was also a very interesting conversation, if I recall correctly, with Chris and Hillary.
It was our 100th episode. We brought Chris Babel from TrustArc and Hillary, who was no longer with TrustArc at that time, but they were the two powers behind us being able to launch the podcast. We wanted them back for the 100th episode, and we got into a lively conversation of what do we call this thing? So I saw a question the other day from someone at TrustArc that says, do we certify to the TAD bling, bling, bling? I'm like, oh, that's the name of the new potential bridge, or I'm going to call it the charm because, third time's the charm. I'm just going to call it the charm.
No, I'm going for the data deal.
The data deal?
Easy, quick, the data deal.
Okay.
I haven't given you one yet. Let me think. I like the third time's a charm. Not feeling very creative today, so I'm just going to say the impenetrable data transfer network.
Impenetrable.
Network.
I like it.
Impenetrable, like beyond a shield.
Beyond shield. Oh, I like beyond shield. Shrim's nightmare.
Or Biden's nightmare, or van der Leyen's nightmare.
Chris Hoff said that he would like to come on our podcast. He said the government just had to do some conflicts check or whatever, and I haven't gotten any email from anyone with the government doing any type of conflicts check. So hopefully we can still get Chris on here at some point. I'm sure he's a little busy right now.
And he probably has a good name for it. I'd like to hear what he thinks.
He probably has the name he calls it in private versus the name he calls it in public.
We want to hear that one.
Officially, yeah.
Exactly. We need to take him out, get him high on chocolate.
Yeah.
So I'm still not sure that we came out of that episode, Paul, calling it the thingy.
But it is the name that stuck in the end.
But it is the name that stuck, right? It is the name that stuck. So I love it.
Even last week's episode was still about the disappointing thingy. And I'm still not over the disappointment.
Nope.
I have just checked again. Also still, the Department of Justice has not released any guidance on designating the European Union as one of the countries that should be part of this thingy. So also that is still something that we are waiting for. So I'm not sure how the EDPB can recommend adequacy without those guidelines even being available.
Right. A lot of work to do on our side. And as I said earlier, maybe that's where we've still got some hope. I'm going to shut up. Let's go to the next one. Does that remind you of one of your other favorite episodes? I'm just going to flip us back and forth here.
Oh, well, when you talk about a lot of work, then one thing comes to mind for me, and that is data protection impact assessments.
Oh, yes.
Because they typically involve a lot of work, even if you do them quick and dirty, between parentheses. But there are some people who don't even do them quick and dirty, but they just write down reports of 130, 140, 150 pages as part of a DPIA, including half of those with technical analysis.
And no cliff notes.
And no cliff notes, no summaries, just a very lengthy, full-blown DPIA with all the analysis. And that is what we talked about with Sjoerd Nas from Privacy Company, the company that is doing all the DPIAs on behalf of the Dutch government, on big tech, on Google Workspace and Google Education and Microsoft 365 and Zoom and all those other things.
Amazing.
Just done a report on the AI authority that will be part of the Dutch Data Protection Authority in the coming years.
And AI makes you think of Chat GPT, but let's not go there.
No, that's for next year. But Sjoerd told us a lot about also the use of metadata and why it is important to include that in your DPIAs as well. Let's listen.
All right. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today, which actually I think is going to be not only privacy enlightening, but very operationalizing because of the DPIAs that Sjoerd has done. So I'm excited to hear about those and, steal a few.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sjoerd, first of all, maybe what is your process? I think many people, when they think about DPIAs, they think about clicking a few buttons in software and then getting a report that says you have mitigated risk from a red zone to a gray zone or a green zone and just attaching some policies to it and then be done with it. But if I look at the things you create, it's a whole different process.
Yeah, they're long to start with. I do have to apologize for that. It's asking a lot from people to read so many pages, but what we do is very similar to what we did with the internet team at the Dutch Data Protection Authority. So we do a thorough technical inspection of the data processing, and we're focused on the metadata. So the data such a cloud provider collects about your individual use of the services. We kind of trust the story that they have this lovely green locker box where they put all your content data. The entire legalese is focused on the green locker box. You can safely store all your content data with us. We won't touch it. It's super secure. And it's much safer than when you store it with your local hosting provider because we're much better in security than they are, right? That's the story. So that's the marketing. So we kind of trust, yeah, sure, Google, Microsoft, AWS, Oracle. I'm sure they're pretty good in protecting the content you put in those services, right? They do have 2,000-3,000 people working on security. I mean, they're good at that. I sort of trust that. So interesting bit is what kind of camera they turn on whenever you open and close the green locker box, right? That's where I become intrigued, like the value of noticing whatever I do with their services can help them develop new services, improve their service, maybe buy a few competitors if they notice I take a walk around the green locker box to another nice, lovely blue locker box, right? And maybe they want to buy it. So that's what intrigues me. Like, what do they really do with the metadata? And they generally tend to be silent about metadata in their contracts, like the default global cloud providers. So the report is about 60 to 70 pages, really boring details about the technical inspection. What do they actually do with the metadata?
So yeah, there you have it. Metadata, something that not a lot of us are too actively looking at, I would say, including myself. Although I do still use some of the reminders of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF. Yeah. They have put a lot of information on their website about metadata, including some great examples.
Yeah.
You stood on a bridge at 3 a.m. And called the suicide hotline, but nobody knew what you were talking about. Things like that. Yeah. How revealing metadata could be just by knowing location and who you called and the time of the day. So yeah, metadata is important.
Metadata is very important, especially given the world of big data that we're living in now, where the metadata definitely adds up. So I'm going to take that then and say it also leads me to backups and data recovery and emergency retention plans. I can't remember another episode where I laughed so much. And it was so very unexpected, especially given the gravity of the topic that we were discussing. And I'm speaking of the episode with W. Curtis Preston, Mr. Backup himself, working for Druva. And it just was hilarious talking about, backing up data and what that actually means and what you need to do for it. So here's a favorite little snippet from that episode.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people many environments make the mistake of keeping their data, their backups for far too long.
Right.
Backups should be kept for about a year. Okay. Anything longer than that should be an archive system. And that is a completely different methodology. It's a completely different set of software, same hardware, basically, but it's a completely different software field. And, a lot of people, and so they get themselves into this problem. It's like, well, I have backup tapes from 10 years ago, so I can't get rid of my backup software, right? I can't move on to the next latest, greatest thing because I'm married to this thing from the past, right? And the real problem is that backups just aren't made to do the thing that you want to do from 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you want this database record, you want this image, you want this one file or all the files around this given topic, right? There was this thing that happened 7 years ago and we want all the files, or emails or whatever that have to do with that thing. A backup system doesn't know how to do that.
Right. So what is the main purpose of a backup?
Well, a backup, it's going to sound silly, but it's to restore, right? It is to restore the server or the file system or your computer to the way it looked yesterday, maybe the way it looked last month, but it's not to bring back a collection of data that is related by subject, right? That's what an archive system is for. That's the opposite of archive is retrieve. Right? You retrieve all the emails that Paul sent to Janet 3 years ago. Sorry, Paul, I'm going to accuse you of doing something poorly. Fine. Right? By the way, I didn't do it. Janet accused you. And Janet so we want to see, we want to see all the emails that Paul sent to Janet 3 years ago. That is a backup system has no idea how to do that. Right? That's what an archive system is for.
And I recall that conversation and also thinking during all that laughter, how are we ever going to edit this?
Right? How are we ever going to pull out actual meaningful conversation? Although there was a lot of actual meaningful conversation. Absolutely brilliant individual, been working on backups and explaining the difference between disaster recovery and backups, which I hope made an impact on some of our listeners as to what you should and should not be using backups for. And backups are incredibly important for their actual purpose, whereas retaining data or doing an emergency retention plan, disaster recovery plan is a totally different scenario.
Absolutely. So talking about laughter, there was another episode this year where we laughed a lot, and that was our crossover episode.
Oh my gosh. I wasn't sure we were ever going to actually pull conversation out of that one. Can you imagine getting the five of us in one virtual room?
Oh, well, we talked for well over an hour. This was a recording together with the guys from Privacy Please and with Debbie Reynolds from the Data Diva podcast. I was already going to call it the Serious Data Diva Privacy Please podcast because that's what we named the episode. But Debbie Reynolds, the Data Diva. And this actually came about because of the rankings that Jeff Jockish used to do or is still doing. I haven't seen them for a while, but maybe he will come back with a year overview sometime in the next couple of weeks, where the three of us consistently scored in the top tier. So we said, well, let's go and sit together and have a nice chat and see what we can do.
And what people don't realize is there's no real sense of competition here. No. I mean, all of us, of course, want more listeners and more listens and more hits per podcast, but none of us actually make any money off of it. It's not something we're doing for fame or fortune or anything like that.
It's just for fun.
We're all very passionate about privacy, and we realize that there are a lot of gaps in knowledge out there that people need to have filled, whether it's on a breaking technology or it's on a new law or a court decision, or it's on something that's a staple in privacy or data protection that maybe people don't understand, like backups and disaster recovery.
Exactly.
So yes, that was hilarious.
Yeah, the clip that I have for you is actually one that you introduced, which is all about seduction.
Let's listen to that one. It is interesting because now I'm hyper aware of the situation, and even things like on cookies. Would you like to share your cookies with us? And I had the debate with people, well, but sharing has been taught from a very young age to be a good thing. If you ask people to share, you have taught your children they need to share. Sharing cookies is associated with a good thing. And so even asking the question, would you like to share your cookies with us, as opposed to please make your cookie selection, is that in itself a manipulation, because you're putting in their mind sharing is good.
Well, and the cookies are delicious. So
Right?
doesn't sound that harmful, does it? You know, it's
No.
not like they're saying,
That's where they get you.
it's not like they're saying share rhubarb or something like that. Or Brussels sprouts.
Which is also delicious if done
Right.
properly.
Depending on how it's prepared.
That is good. Oh gosh, I used to be forced to eat that as a kid, and can't do it. I can't eat it now.
Oh.
That is interesting to think about it that way, though. Okay, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share your cookies?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something behind it psychologically.
Yeah. I even saw one the other day. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we want you to have our cookies, but cookies crumble. Do you mind sharing them with us? It was like, you're deliberately putting in mind people's cookies and stuff. So how do you do that? But he
Website pops up. Hey Kay, who stole the cookies from the cookie jar?
Google stole the cookies from the cookie jar.
Yeah.
There's small chance that it would be Keish, and she can't stand cookies in general.
Yes,
There
they
it
have to be
is.
gluten-free cookies, which are full of sugar and fat. And dark patterns still prevail. I mean, I don't like the term dark patterns. I think maybe dark seduction would be a good terminology for it. But yes.
I do like dark chocolate cookies, but maybe that's not what you were aiming for here.
Dark chocolate cookies should be healthier for you, right?
Yeah, if you leave out the sugar and the butter and the cream and,
Oh my gosh.
in your case, the gluten.
Oh my God. Okay. So I'm going to take you off a little bit of actual things. And the last two I have, I'm going to pick on one of them here. Let's go to the episode. And I picked this one out because it's got Sam Elliott in it. Now, Sam Elliott isn't the starring point of the show, but I'll include the clip of him in there. But the point with Sam Elliott had to do, and it wasn't the episode with them, had to do with the midterm elections and what we were expecting and the things that were happening there. And we called this one the real and the raw side of privacy. And it was current events. We talked about different aspects of privacy. So nothing in specific. It was some current events. It was about moving into privacy. It was about what courses you should take or what skills you should have. It was about people who were experienced in law or experienced in managing data and how do they actually move into privacy or data protection. It was just a good, to me, all around episode that discussed some basics of the privacy profession, I thought. And I think the clip I'm going to get is the one with Sam Elliott, because Paul had no idea who he was, even though he's watched shows that have Sam Elliott in it. And I've been in love with that voice since I knew what voices were.
Does not ring any bell to me.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
sorry.
Okay. You probably would recognize him if you see it. Google it if you don't have it. But yeah, he's awesome. Did you Google it?
Yeah, no,
Love that voice.
sorry.
Still don't recognize him? Okay, fine. I'm just going to have to introduce you to what would Sam Elliott do.
I mean, I see some movies that I've seen, but no. I mean, this is not somebody that I truly recognize. I'm sorry.
So after the podcast, you're going to have to go click on a couple of the videos and hear his voice.
Yeah, maybe we can add 5 seconds to the recording so that people know who he is.
Okay, quick clip. Sam Elliott.
You know, I could catch more trout than he or any of his friends.
Really?
He was proud of that. But I don't think he ever got the theater arts interest.
Okay, have you thought about who you would like to know better? Sam Elliott?
Yeah, this was one of those typical serious privacy episodes where you and I have no idea what to talk about when we see each other at the start of the call and just start rambling and there you go. We have an episode.
Yeah.
This is actually what that kitchen table conversation is all about.
Exactly. Sitting on the back porch with your cup of coffee or your cup of tea, and you're just shooting the breeze, which is what we expected. But it was funny because we actually leapfrogged from that episode to another that we actually deliberately sat down and spoke about testing. Because after this episode, we had an individual contact us that said that, and this isn't the first individual that's done so, but reminded us that when they're studying for their IAPP certifications, a lot of them listen to us to learn more in-depth things about current events or new technologies or privacy basics. So we actually kicked off an episode, which we're not going to do a clip it on yet, but we kicked off an episode deliberately talking about certification tests and how do you study for them and how do you take them. So we appreciate that feedback from our fans of things that they need. Appreciate that. So back to you. What's next on yours?
Well, one more thing about sitting on the back porch. I don't think that's a particularly good idea in the US right now.
Oh my gosh, the winter start. Do you know? Okay. So we went on vacation right before Christmas with my oldest daughter on a cruise ship. So we were in the Caribbean, the Bahamas. I don't care where we were. We were somewhere warm and balmy and it was awesome. And we landed, we came back to shore and went to the airport in the middle of that horrendous winter storm that ripped through last week. And we were stuck in the Orlando airport for about 8 hours. And when we finally got to South Carolina, where my daughter was, it was like 11 degrees, but a negative something wind. No, there's a reason I live in the desert.
Yeah.
There's a reason, because it's warm. Oh my goodness, that was horrible. I hope all of our fans, listeners were out there. I hope y'all were safe and sound. I know there were millions of people impacted with power outages and water pipes breaking because nobody was expecting this kind of thing to move through. So just outrageous. And the rest of the world was watching going, the U.S. is going to freeze and fall off the face of the earth. It almost happened.
It felt a little like that, at least in the news reports over here.
Yeah, right. Hell froze over. Hell froze over. Let's be honest. Hell froze over.
Well, that's also a way to call the US. But... So my final snippet for this year actually really brings us back to basics. And this is from the conversation we had with Tekia Kwete, who is the former commissioner of the Ghana Data Protection Authority. And she is talking about baseline privacy and how privacy and data protection really are inherent fundamental rights to everybody, whether they have been educated or not. And they were in the unique situation that they have actually been able to establish that with numbers in Ghana when their data protection law went into effect. Let's listen.
I remember when we were at the Data Protection Commission, one of the first exercises that we decided to undertake was a baseline study, of what data protection really exists. And this was done as a way of actually being able to measure whether the commission was making progress over time. So you are able to measure pre-awareness and then able to measure, after you started putting in place protocols to see whether you've increased awareness. And so we jumped on the back of a national survey that was being organized by the Ghana Statistical Service at the time. And I remember I was invited to go into the field then. What we had done was that nobody really knew about data protection. So the questions were like very basic questions, right? Assuming you have your telephone, your mobile phone PIN, which you use in accessing your money, who would you give it to? If you're going to a hospital, who do you want to share your information with? And remember, these were done in English, but it was translated to the local language. And I happened to be in the field with people who you would not call educated, who do not read English, but these were interpreted to them in the local dialect. And I was very surprised to see the amount of people that really still recognize the notion of privacy to the extent that they felt that if there are no laws in place, government should put in laws to protect them because there's a higher risk to them now. And I think that goes to the very foundational issue of the fact that privacy is a conserve of any human being. We really need that,
fascinating,
to operate, to live and to live our lives fully as human beings. So it's not a notion of some rich person or some developed country deserves privacy better than my poor grandmother in a village somewhere. And I think that is how we should be looking at that when we're talking about it.
And one of the things I really like is what you highlighted, what she highlighted, the numbers, the metrics, the stats. People in our profession can rarely do that. We had an episode on privacy statistics and key metrics that you should be tracking. They're nothing.
With Gary Edwards.
Yeah, exactly. They are nothing like what she was able to produce.
No, because this is all from highly educated people working in the field. And this is from everybody who may not even have had an education, who might not even speak English, is not familiar with the international developments in Europe, in the US, in Southeast Asia, and Latin America. So I thought this was fascinating.
Yeah.
Actually, to have confirmation that data protection and privacy are inherent fundamental rights.
Inherent. And they should be. And they should be available to everyone, and everyone should understand what they are.
Amen.
That brings us to my last one. And then we'll look into, predictions for 2023. Okay. And the episode that I called A Podcast Went to CCC for All That It Could CCC. Yeah, sorry. But it seemed like everything we spoke about.
Everything was about to see.
Yeah. Can Kay quit singing? Please just stop. We're not sure what she does is actually singing, but could she stop, please? But we did. We talked about COPPA. We talked about California, Cuba, Colombia. We talked about smart cars. We talked about the age-appropriate design code bill, so the code in California. We talked about the CNIL enforcement against Ubico.
Children.
Yeah, children. We talked about the Sephora settlement in California, which had to do with not understanding what it is they do with data, is what it boiled down to. It's like everything. It's like the kitchen sink. I'm just going to say this was the kitchen sink episode. And it was interesting just in the sheer mass amount of information that just was flooding us day after day after day that came up. So let me just give you a little snippet of what it was that we talked about. I was focusing on one particular episode or one particular topic. In my mind, they're probably going to come out of this just fine. They're going to take the actions that they've been told to take, they need to do, and they'll probably be more active in looking at regulations and laws that are coming active as well that might apply to them. I say that without knowing if they were involved in any of the other legal making processes. But typically, if you're hit with something, then you're going to start paying attention with the laws that address that hitting, right?
It is. Yeah, it is true. And I think this is also a fair warning for a lot of European companies that CCPA could be very relevant to them if they do business in California, and that they should actually take a look whether California applies, whether a do not sell or do not share link should be included.
Right.
What to do with global privacy control, and also still what to do with analytics.
Yeah.
Because this is something that we will see more and more. That was crazy, to use another word with a C.
Exactly. And chaos. It was chaotic.
I think that's a fair summary for the all of 2022. I mean,
crazy and chaotic.
Crazy and chaos, because we started this year still in COVID. We started this year still in lockdown. If you remember that.
And now we're out of it. But what's next? I mean, we had so many expectations for 2022.
Well, what's next is another C. It's China, which may put the world back into COVID lockdowns.
Right.
Soon, but
it's crazy. And as I was joking in the beginning, my anticipation for 2023 is we had so much for 2022. Our hopes for riding on 2022 definitely disappointed. And this was on the COVID, the getting out of home, the getting back to work, the returning to normal. people have definitely been working that direction, going on cruises, going on flights, traveling, going to see family, going out and about and doing their business. And I think the commercial side of the world has definitely tried to recoup some of their losses over the past few years, but we still didn't get back to normal. We're still in kind of this bated anticipation. And I was afraid if we talk about 2023 too much, maybe we'll scare it away. So we need to we need to approach it quietly like a wild animal and just see what it's going to do and all of its natural gloriousness. Y'all ought to see all the talking I'm doing on my hands right now and just treat it carefully. But despite that, we do have some expectations for 2023. I'm not going to say that returning to normalcy is going to happen because I'm not sure it's ever going to happen again. I think the professions, the world has become accustomed to a new normal. And I think we're going to have this hybrid is going to be the new normal now. I think we're going to maintain a hybrid status because company recognize how much money they could save, not supporting offices, not supporting.
And how more happy employees are because there is a much better work-life balance without the commute every single day.
Yeah. And those that want to go into the office can choose to do so in many cases 2 or 3 times a week. They could do so 5 times a week if they wanted to. But I think that's kind of I hate to say the word new normal. Everybody says quit using new normals. But it is. We have changed our understanding of what work-life balance needs to be and what overworking, being in the office looks like.
Yeah. And 2023 will start probably also with a big bang, at least if the Irish DPC meets their deadlines, because there are 3 meta cases up for release.
Now, when is Helen's tenure over? Is it this year?
I think that's another year.
Okay. And she's under a deadline now. She's under orders to toughen up.
Yeah, I mean, this is only for a couple of more weeks before those cases need to be released to the public. So we'll see enforcement decisions for, I think it's Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, all 3 of them.
Yep.
So that will be very interesting to see what comes out of those. There are other cross-border cases that will wrap up in the course of next year. There are more court cases. I think there are 25 court cases pending right now before the Court of Justice. We'll see what will happen with the federal privacy legislation in the US. We'll see what will happen with the bill that is before the Indian Congress on the data protection law. We'll see what will happen with enforcement in China.
Yeah.
And then hopefully by the end of next year, we'll be able to tell whether or not Convention 108 has had sufficient ratifications to be able to enter into force.
Yeah.
At least 108 plus the modernized convention.
Exactly.
So it will be, from the data protection perspective, I think it will be an exciting year. And no, we are not going to jinx it, but I think there will be more than enough for us to talk about in season 4 of Serious Privacy.
So privacy geeks unite. Your excitement is coming. Sit with bated breath on the edge of your chair, waiting for another one to bite the dust.
Exactly. We should be back by Data Protection Day, 28th of January 2023, which is a Saturday. So maybe just before or just after that, you'll find us in your podcast feed again. For now, let us wish you a very, very happy new year and all the best and good health for 2023.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we wrap up season 3 of Serious Privacy. If you like us, please rate and review us in your favorite podcast app or application or on your favorite podcast platform. Join the conversation on LinkedIn. Find us under Serious Privacy. Reach out to us on Twitter at @podcastprivacy. You will find Kay on Twitter as Heart of Privacy and myself as EuroPolB. I think both under those names on Mastodon somewhere as well, but just Google us and you'll find us. Thank you very, very much for listening this year.
Yes, ditto.
And hear you back in the new year. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
That was Serious Privacy.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No. That's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.